Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today's tutorial is going to be a short pixie haircut. This haircut is often complicated and a lot of stylists struggle with short haircutting techniques. So I'm going to break this down, make it super simple, easy to follow, and so that you can repeat the skills you learn in your salon on your clients and taking away the fear of cutting short hair. I've began by sectioning off a horseshoe type section at the top of the head. I've also made sure that this section is around the curvature of the head. So a good little way to find where to take your section is to place the comb on the side of the head, and where the comb leaves the head at the top is around the height you want to take it. So instead of basing it on the hairline, I'm basing it on the head shape, which means every single time we do this on a client, we get it accurate and specific for their head shape. Then I've separated out the front zone and the back zone, making sure that there is a clear difference between the two areas, because we are going to begin our haircut in the back and the nape of the neck, and I don't want to get any hair confused, making this area too short. So I'm combing the hair directly out from the head. I'm using the pre-existing short hair at the bottom as a guide, making sure I only cut the hair between the ends of my finger and my second knuckle to keep maximum tension. I comb this hair directly out from the head and I cut my line. Repeat this process on the second section. I'm actually going to comb this hair from underneath to make sure I get my elevation that is required. If you don't use enough elevation and lift this hair as you work, you're likely to get too much weight, too much heaviness, building a real unwanted mushroom kind of shape on the top of the head. With each section I do, I'm going to move around the head. In this scenario, I'm actually going to move the head to make it easier for you to see on the camera. But if I was working on a client, I would move my body and my feet around to make sure I can consistently bring this directly out from the head. The consistency whilst working this way really helps to keep my shape consistent through into the back, into the nape of the neck, and making sure my shape builds nicely as I work around the head. When I come into the nape of the neck here, I already have a short guide, but if I didn't, it would be essential to make sure that I keep my knuckles pointing in towards the nape of the neck to get that short graduated look without it feeling too heavy or bulky in that area. It's essential when you're cutting short hair like this to make sure you keep the hair really wet down, because it makes it easier and cleaner to get your nice neat sections. Making sure I can clearly see my guideline before cutting the section of hair, to make sure that I can maintain the shortness and the shape, building the weight in the right area. Before I move on to the right hand side of the head, I'm just going to take some horizontal sections across the back to comb the hair out and cross check everything, making sure my line is clean and consistent. I'm now going to repeat the process on the right hand side, starting in the hairline, using my guide from the bottom of my section, combing the hair out from the head and cutting towards the top part of the section. over directing the hair back, working to the guideline and cutting my line. One thing that's very essential as I work through the front of this haircut is that I elevate the hair in the top enough to make sure my shape is short enough, high enough up, and to therefore prevent it from being too heavy. If I was to pull this hair very low down and cut it at this point, it would be very heavy and very weighty on the top. I want to make the shape slightly flatter and slimmer to not make it bulky and round. I'm now going to repeat the process on the left hand side of the head, taking a small piece as a guideline, combing the hair out, making sure I elevate high enough and cutting my guide. I've now released the top section of hair. I've separated out the front zone and clipped it back up and left out all of the hair that sits on or around the crown, where when blow dried will sit naturally backwards. And then I've taken a central section in the nape of the neck from the highest point into the bottom part of my previous haircut. And then I'm going to begin my layering. By not using a blunt cutting line, what this is going to do is give this haircut some more softness and movement towards the top. As I work round to the sides now, I'm going to pivot my sections around. And what we're going to find, because in our bob haircut we used over direction, is that there will be a little bit more hair to remove in each section as we work around. I'm still using a nice soft point cutting technique, maintaining the length on the top for movement and softness, and working my way around this haircut consistently with clean, neat sections to continue to create my shape. As you can see here, there is more hair to be removed than previous, as we said, but what I want to do here is just again keep this super soft, make sure that I don't make anything in this haircut too rigid, because the shortness and sharpness at the bottom will be fairly structured, and I want the top to have lots of movement and texture. I'm moving my body around the head as I work to allow me to bring it directly out from the head. If I was to stay stationary, what would happen generally is I would bring the hair back towards my body, maybe even if I didn't mean it, therefore getting longer, which we don't want to do in this scenario. As we come round to the sides, this is where the most hair is to be removed because of our previous haircut and the over direction. And I'm just using a little slide cutting technique on that area to give me that really beautiful soft shape. Now released my final front section and taken a central profile section that runs from back to front. I'm going to use a small piece in the front hairline as my guide for the length of my fringe. In this haircut, I'm going to go for a kind of bangs like grown out fringe, keeping it soft, keeping it feminine, and really working with this textured feel to my haircut. So I allow this hair to sit into my comb. I'm going to leave it slightly longer to allow for it to bounce up on the mannequin head, cutting it just below the bridge of the nose, and I point cut this guideline. As you can see, this will pop up, so it's going to be a good length. And then what I need to do from now is connect in my new guide in the fringe to the guide that I have in the back of my section. So because the distance between the front and the back is quite large, and this hair will be quite a lot to cut in one go and becomes a guessing game as to whether we're going to cut this to the length of the fringe, the length of the back, and will they meet in the middle. What we're going to do is actually take a small part in the front, combing this hair out from the head using the wide teeth of the comb for less tension, point cut my shape. Then I'm going to switch to the back, combing this hair up, point cutting to connect. And then this is just going to leave me a very, very small amount of hair between the front and the back zones to connect together. I try to keep my shape as consistently round as possible. And I have guidelines to follow all over the haircut. One from the side, one from my central section in the top, and one from behind from the previously cut back section. This makes the process really easy to follow and understand where I'm cutting my length and how short to cut the hair. The final section to complete is the same on the right hand side of the head. I'm combing the hair up, using my guidelines and connecting the hair in. To create my shape in the front hairline, I'm going to use a small finger razor, holding this here, working out from inside to outside and removing any unwanted lengths of fringe, creating a lot of texture and softness in the outline. When working with a razor, I'm holding the hair tight in my fingers, working above my fingers and moving the razor whilst keeping this hand still. Now my haircut is complete, I'm going to blow dry using a wrap drying technique. For this, I'm going to use a vest brush to smooth the hair down, and then once it's dry and refined, we can encourage some texture and some movement into the shape. Now the drying and finishing is complete, I'm going to refine this haircut. So we can see it's maybe a little long here, but also a little heavy as we come through the sides because of the excess length that we've left towards the front. So what we're going to do now is use some refining techniques like point cutting, texturizing, and some slide cutting to really transform this shape, giving it that softness and lightness throughout. I start with a central section, combing the hair out from the head, and again using a really deep point cutting technique to give maximum texture and softness to my shape, removing the weight from the top of this haircut. I pivot around from here, following the shape of the fringe and also encouraging the movement of this to come away from the face. My final finishing touch with my haircut is to create some more space and softness in my hairline. I'm doing this by using a slide cutting technique. So I'm using the corner and the heel of the blade, pushing my scissors in and closing as I work down the head. Then once complete, I just refine using a point cutting technique on the hairline to make sure that this fringe isn't going to be too long. Of course, in this scenario, it's not too much of a problem, but for a client, they want to not only be able to see, but also, of course, to maintain this haircut and the fringe over a period of time. Thank you for watching this short haircutting tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you like the technique, and I hope you find it useful in your salons to break down and simplify the way that you're working. As always, drop in the comments below, let us know the haircuts you want to see, and we will get them done.